So today we're doing finding the distance between 2 points. There's two formulas I'm going to tell you. The first one is the distance formula. This is going to be d equals the square root. And the square root is going over everything. It's going to be x sub 2 minus x sub 1. And that whole quantity is going to be squared. And I'm going to add that to y sub 2 minus y sub 1. And that whole quantity is also going to be squared. Then the second formula is called the Pythagorean theorem. This is a squared plus b squared equals c squared. Typically you use this with triangles. And then one thing I want to point out is typically when I'm given my coordinate points, they're going to be listed in this order. It's going to be x sub 1, y sub 1, x sub 2, y sub 2. I'm going to need to label them myself, but your sub 1s go together and your sub 2s go together. Oh, also while I'm thinking of it, you might want a calculator today. Give me one too. Not so very nice. Okay, so first thing I want to do is I want to label x sub 1, y sub 1, x sub 2, y sub 2. And I want to plug into my distance formula because I have 2 points and not a triangle. So, plugging in, I'm going to have negative 5 minus 2, and that quantity is going to be squared. And then I'm going to add that to 0 minus negative 3 squared. So what is negative 5 minus 2? Negative 7. And then 0 minus negative 3? 3. Okay, what's negative 7 squared? Try again. What is 3 squared? 9. And 49 plus 9? Okay, so then using my calculator, what's the square root of 58? Round to 1 decimal place. Square root, so if I want to do square root, I'm going to press the second button and then the x squared button, and then I type my number. guess that's what I'm going to do next. Okay, so that was one way to do this. I'm going to go ahead and graph these. So I want to plot my points. I'm going to have 2, -3, and -5, 0. So then I'm going to connect these 2 points. No, you don't need a compass. I'm just using it as a straight edge. You need something straight. Okay, so how many squares am I going down? And how many squares am I going to the right? Like 7? How about exactly 7? Okay, so then I want to plug into my Pythagorean theorem. So this missing side I'm solving for is always going to be my c. So I'm going to do 3 squared plus 7 squared should equal c squared. So what is 3 squared? And 7 squared? A and B don't matter. I can switch them. And then 9 plus 49 is? And then to get C alone, I want to take the square root. So C equals 7.6. So both these ways give me the same answer. You can show one. But for the notes, I'm going to do both ways for all of them, just so you see them all. So, same idea on the second one. I want to label my x sub 1, my y sub 1, x sub 2, y sub 2. Then I'm going to plug into my distance formula. So I'm going to have the square root of -3 minus -1 squared plus 4 minus 2 squared. Okay, what's -3 minus -1? No. Remember, this is the same thing as me saying -3 plus 1. -2. 4 minus 2? 2. What is -2 squared? 4. Positive 2 squared? 4 plus 4? Tyson, remember when I showed the whole class? It's second and then the x squared button. What's the square root of 8? What? Because you're not doing it in parentheses like I'm writing it on the paper. Because the calculator puts the negative there at the end instead of doing -2 times -2. Okay, so I want to go ahead and graph these. So how many squares am I going down this time? And how many am I going right? So on this one, I'm going to do 2 squared plus 2 squared equals c squared. And 2 squared is? So I have 4 plus 4 equals c squared. Four plus 4 is... And I want to go ahead and do what to get c alone? Square root. C is... So, if I'm not getting the same answers when I do this both ways, that means I'm doing something wrong. Okay, so moving on, I'm going to label my points. This is going to be x sub 1, y sub 1, x sub 2, y sub 2. Plugging into my distance formula, I'm going to have the square root of 2 minus negative 1 squared plus 1 minus negative 3 squared. So 2 minus negative 1 is the same thing as 2 plus 1, which is 2 plus 1. Okay. And then I have 1 minus negative 3, which is going to be the same thing as 1 plus 3. Okay. What is 3 squared? 4 squared? 9 plus 16? Yes. Okay, and the square root of 25? Okay, so I want to go ahead and plot my points. Okay, how many am I going up?
4.
And how many am I going right?
3.
So I'm going to plug in. I'm going to have 4 squared plus 3 squared equals c squared. What's 4 squared? 3 squared? So when I add them together, I get 25. I need to get rid of my exponent, so I square root both sides. Okay, so I want to go ahead and do the same thing for my last problem. I need to start off by labeling my x sub 1 and my y sub 1, my x sub 2 and my y sub 2. And then I plug into my distance formula. So I'm going to have 4 minus negative 4 squared added to negative 4 minus 2 squared. Four minus negative 4, 8. And then negative 4 minus 2. Okay, what is 8 squared?
64.
And negative 6 squared?
36.
Positive 36. Whenever I square a negative number, it always turns positive. 64 plus 36?
98.
Try again. 100. And then the square root of 100?
2.
Square root of 100? 10. Okay. So then my final part is just to graph this in check. So I'm going to go to -4, 2, and 4, -4. Okay, how many squares am I going down this time? And how many am I going right? So then I want to do 6 squared plus 8 squared equals c squared. What is 6 squared? 36. And then 8 squared? And then c squared. And we said 36 plus 64 was 100. And then to get c alone, I...
Take the square root.
and then I get c equals 10.